Tonight, a living nightmare. An Edinburgh family tells of their trauma after their mum was hit by a car while on holiday in America.
And I honestly wouldn't wish what happened to us to anyone. It was just the most stressful day of my life.
Also making the headlines, the First Minister accuses the UK government of leaving Scotland's public services with a £200 million funding gap. In sport, feeling the heat. Pressure builds on Philippe Clement and David Gray after more dropped points in the Premiership. And lighting up a smile. The baby boy who spent his whole life in hospital turns on the Christmas lights at Edinburgh Children's Hospital. I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. An Edinburgh family have told STV News of their living nightmare after their mum was hit by a car while on holiday in the USA, suffering a catastrophic brain injury. Jane Rubin remains in a coma in hospital in Missouri. Her family, who've flown out to be at her bedside, say she will have to remain there for months until she is fit enough to fly home. In the meantime, they're in negotiations with her insurers. Our reporter Laura Alderman has been speaking to them.
73-year-old Jane Rubin from Edinburgh, seen here with her daughter Katrina, was visiting family in St Louis, Missouri on the 1st of November when she was hit by an SUV at a pedestrian crossing. She's been in hospital in an induced coma ever since and has undergone a craniectomy, a type of major brain surgery. Her family flew over to be by her bedside. Insurance company AXA initially said they wanted to fly her home today, which would end medical insurance payments in the US, but the family felt it's too soon.
We had neurologists and a neurosurgeon saying to us it's going to be in her best interest to wait 3 to 6 months in terms of her neurological recovery. And obviously we want to do all we can to maximise that, but we can't have her stay without her medical expenses being covered. And she did have good travel insurance to cover her for these types of eventualities. And I honestly wouldn't wish what happened to us to anyone. It was just the most stressful day of my life.
Katrina then took to social media to explain the family's position. Her post has now been viewed almost 1 million times.
You know, it's not something I did lightly. I don't want to put photos of my mum when she's at her most vulnerable. I don't want to share this really, even if this wasn't happening with AXA, this would still be the worst time of our lives. And it's not something we want to be spending time fighting with an insurer about. So I think that my social media got some attention, and then the head of operations or service delivery, at AXA called me today. She said that they're not going to put Jane on a flight today, that they're going to speak to the treating clinicians and the hospital in the UK.
In a statement, AXA said, "We are contacting Miss Rubin and her family to discuss all possible options with regards to her insurance claim. The welfare of Miss Rubin's mother and her family is our priority at this time." Since her accident, Jane has been mostly unresponsive, but family are continuing to stay with her and hope to bring her home as soon and as safely as possible. Laura Alderman, STV News, Edinburgh.
The First Minister is accusing the UK government of leaving Scotland's public services with a £200 million funding gap due to the increase in national insurance. The Chancellor announced last month employer contributions would rise. The Scottish Government called for £500 million to cover the impact. However, it's emerged the Treasury will provide around £300 million. Our political correspondent Ewan Petrie reports.
Pharmacies like this are increasingly reliant on income from the NHS. The rise in national insurance contributions means many are having to reconsider the services they provide.
Certainly it puts the community pharmacy network under more pressure at a time when every penny is really important across the board, as we look to keep providing the accessibility and the services to patients in the front line.
Colleges are also warning about the additional cost, which they say will amount to more than £15 million.
What we're looking for is that fair funding for this additional cost to be covered. We've got the budget coming up, the Scottish budget, in about a week and a half, and the Chancellor has created additional costs for the colleges at a time when the financial stress and strain on them anyway is huge because of years of underfunding.
The Scottish Government will receive between £295 and £330 million from Westminster to cover the impact on the public sector. That's short of the £500 million it says would be needed to cover those in direct employment. Taking others, including colleges and pharmacies, into account would increase it even further.
That leaves us with a £200 million funding gap. So what the UK government is doing is giving money on the one hand and taking away on the other by employers' national insurance contributions. So that undermines the strength of the public finances in Scotland and puts an acute budget pressure on the Scottish Government, in addition to the other issues with which we are wrestling.
The UK Government says its budget delivered more money than ever for Scotland's public services amid a difficult economic climate.
You have to make decisions. At the end of the day, we inherited a broken economy. £22 billion was unaccounted for on the books, so we had to fill that black hole. At the same time, I knew we had to put money into the health service, we had to put money into our schools, and so you have to make choices. You can't do both.
This latest row adds to the financial headache for the Scottish Government ahead of its budget next week. Ewan Petrie, STV News.
Our Westminster correspondent Paris Gertsianis joins us now. Paris, Chancellor Rachel Reeves has been talking about the impact of her budget in the past few hours. What's she been saying?
That's right, Kellyanne. The Chancellor's been speaking to big business, the Confederation of British Industry, because, you know, the private sector is really unhappy about this national insurance rise too. Half of companies say they could cut jobs because of the added cost. That spells big trouble for Rachel Reeves' top objective of economic growth. She promised today that she won't raise taxes or borrowing in future budgets. That means the squeeze will be back on public services next year. Now, we heard in Ewan's report about that extra £300 million to help public services in Scotland pay for national insurance. Across the UK, that means the total bill could be 10 times as big, perhaps £3 billion. Remember, this tax rise was supposed to raise £25 billion, so a big chunk is being handed straight back to public services that just can't afford to pay it. Public or private sector, the backlash for this budget comes with a big bill.
All right, Paris from Westminster, thank you. The woman raped by footballer David Goodwillie has accused the Scottish Government of holding up her attempts to bring a private prosecution against him. After a civil court hearing, a judge previously ruled Denise Clare had been raped by Goodwillie and his then teammate David Robertson at a house in West Lothian in 2011. The Scottish Government says it's a complex case and is working as quickly as possible to reach a decision. Miss Clare says she's now seeking funding for a criminal case.
She's been waiting already for 12, 13 years and, you know, the Scottish Government are prolonging the agony for her because in a decision they could have made in half an hour, it's taken them 6 months and we still don't have a decision. So this is causing her additional anxiety and, you know, if they are serious about putting victims at the centre of the justice system, they should be getting on with it.
A driver who killed a couple on holiday in a head-on collision after overtaking 3 vehicles has been jailed. Martin and Josephine Cousland were killed when George Murphy crashed his Ford Mondeo into them in March 2023. Mr Murphy was trying to get around a bus on the A85 near Tyndrum in Argyll. His 2 sons, who were passengers, were also badly injured in the crash. He'll be sentenced next year. High winds have led to further disruption on Scotland's ferry network. Among the cancellations announced by CalMac today were sailings to and from Arran, Barra and Bute. It's after Storm Bert brought heavy rain and snow, causing widespread travel disruption at the weekend. Now, get into the spirit of giving this season. That's the message from the Scottish National Blood Transfusion Service, which is urging more people to donate blood. The organisation has launched its annual festive drive and says Scotland needs 15,000 donors to step forward this month. Hannah Carmichael reports.
Christmas is the time for giving, and sometimes it's vital. No one knows that more than 20-year-old Hannah and her family.
went and saw an out-of-hour GP and they said, you're not looking too good, and I just got hit with a whammy of infections and viruses, so glandular fever, chest infection, and it just caused my haemoglobin to just tank.
Hannah discovered she suffers from a rare blood disorder, which has affected her family for generations.
I donated years back as my mum was unwell, and then, to be honest with you, sort of let it slip, but obviously with Hannah's condition, it sort of came to the sort of forefront of my mind again how important it is just to give up that hour of your time. We were very, very close to losing her, which, you know, was extremely scary.
She required 4 transfusions within 24 hours and still relies on them regularly.
My mum describes it as putting petrol in a car, which is quite a good analogy. And it just lets me be able to work and see my friends, and I'm so grateful for it. I mean, it saved my life, it saved my granny's life, my mum's life, and people out there need it.
This festive period, Scotland needs 15,000 people to donate blood. The centre here in Glasgow is particularly keen to see people come in on Christmas Eve, Boxing Day, Hogmanay and the 2nd of January.
During the run-up to Christmas, donors can be busy, the weather can be bad, so all the way through December we're really trying to manage all 8 blood groups to make sure that they are not dipping, and also hospital demands can fluctuate, of course. We must be prepared for any eventuality should patients need it.
Health workers say there's an urgent need for more young people to come forward and donate. Connie is one of those stepping up.
The scariest bit is like booking it, and then you don't have to look at the needle when it goes in, and once you're done, you know, that's it for like 3 or 4 months. So it's really easy, it doesn't take that long. You should do it, it's a good thing to do.
The service is hoping to return to pre-pandemic levels by hitting a milestone of 100,000 donors. For the likes of Hannah, there could be no better gift this Christmas. Hannah Carmichael, STV News, Glasgow.
Now, visitors to one of Scotland's most iconic landmarks are about to get a far closer look. The insides of the Kelpies have been a mystery to everyone but sculptor Andy Scott. But that will change from today as Scottish Canals have finally opened the insides of the giant structures to the public. Here's the story, straight from the horse's mouth, from our reporter Raheem Cham.
For more than a decade, the Kelpies have dominated the landscape around Falkirk, attracting tourists from around the world. But until today, what lay inside the huge sculptures remained a mystery.
We've developed a brand new experience, a completely unique experience to tell the story of the Kelpies in a completely different way. So it involves ascending to 25 metres by a series of cables and platforms right up into the horse's mouth itself. So where you get a panoramic view of the local area, the Forth and Clyde Canal, right across to the hills here and down onto the other Kelpie as well.
Once that person has cleared that element...
Now tours are being introduced to raise cash for charities, giving the brave a chance to climb straight up to the horse's mouth.
So it's limited. We're able to do 56 numbers on the day of the 21st of February, so it's literally first come, first serve. There will be a minimum sponsorship, but first of all, you've got to be able to want to take on this challenge first of all, so that's the first step, and then making sure you get a space on the 21st of February.
Every bit of metal now, we're going to go under it.
Okay.
So
led by professional instructions, anyone taking on the challenge is strapped in with a harness before the climbing begins, aided by clips and magnets.
Okay, so this is the first stage of the experience. We're actually walking through the throat of a duke, which is the Kelpie that has his head tilted upwards. So this bridge is called the Clydesdale Bridge, in which you walk across, and then you go up to the next stage, which is called the Bridle Bridge.
The reward on arriving at the top, panoramic views of the Forth and canals. Before literally dropping back down to earth, the mystery of what lies inside the mythical creatures solved.
You all right? Oh my God, I'm seeing stars right now.
Raheem Cham, STV
God.
News, Falkirk.
Brave Raheem there. Not for the faint-hearted, is it, Rahman?
He's a brave man, but could you imagine John doing that? The cable would snap. Let's give you some sport, shall we?
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday event.
He deserved it. Good evening. As pressure mounts on Philippe Clement, former Rangers midfielder Charlie Miller hopes Clement will turn the team's form around, but admits there's little evidence at the moment to show he can. The Ibrox club, who today confirmed the appointment of Patrick Stewart as their new chief executive, have fallen further behind Celtic in the Premiership, following their draw to Dundee United at the weekend. At the start of the season, Philippe Clement told supporters they could expect to see the best Rangers team in October or November. The reality is those fans have watched the side stumble from one poor performance to another. The 1-1 draw with Dundee United at the weekend, the latest result to heap further pressure on the Ibrox boss. Do you think Philippe Clement can ride this out?
I hope so. As I said, I don't like managers getting sacked all the time. I hopefully he can wave his magic wand like he did last year when he came in and we went on a great run of games we went and won. So I really hope he can, but it's going to be difficult.
Do you see enough evidence from the team at the moment that he can?
Not at the moment, no. It's hard to watch. They look nervous. The fans are really struggling to watch it. Some of them, you know, and it's been no great, to be honest with you.
With Celtic thrashing Hearts 4-1 at Tynecastle on Saturday, Rangers are now 11 points behind the champions. The Ibrox club are closer to 6th place St Mirren than they are to 2nd place Aberdeen. For the moment, Philippe Clement retains the support of the Ibrox board. Rangers' next 6 fixtures include Europa League games against Nice and Tottenham Hotspur, as well as the League Cup final against Celtic at Hampden.
The European game, if we go there and get a point, that's not a bad result. Nice are a decent standard of team, obviously, and they've been doing well in Europe. But we really need to win games, get some confidence up to the cup final, because that could be a hard day for us.
While Clement's long-term future in the Ibrox dugout remains uncertain, Rangers have filled a post in the boardroom, with Patrick Stewart confirmed as their new chief executive. Stewart, who spent almost 20 years in various boardroom roles at Manchester United, takes up his new post next month. Well, another man under pressure is David Gray, and following Hibernion's latest defeat, which keeps them rooted at the bottom of the Premiership, he's defended Eli Johan for doing keepy-uppies straight after a Hibs player was sent off at the weekend. Leading 1-0 against Dundee, Jordan Obita received a red card for this challenge. Johan was then seen doing keepy-uppies, which angered sections of the Hibs support. Gray's side went on to lose the game 4-1. That's their 7th league defeat of the season.
I think anyone who knows Eli Johan knows he loves football. He loves being on the pitch. He's enjoying football. That's when he's happiest, when he's on the pitch. I'd fully understand it if the game was about to go on, or I hadn't had the information on, or actually if I'd pulled all the players across and he wasn't over and he was doing his own thing, then I would understand exactly the magnitude of making the point on it. I think a lot's been made of it, but I think if you actually know him, I don't think there's any malice in what he was doing.
St Mirren manager Stephen Robinson says they won't get carried away after defeating Aberdeen to make it 10 points out of 12 from their last 4 games. With the score at 1-1, Richard Taylor scored the winner in the 83rd minute. The Saints are away to Dundee United this weekend. Motherwell boss Stuart Kerrowell says they'll take their 2-1 defeat to Ross County on the chin. And following Kilmarnock's 1-0 loss to St Johnstone, Derek McInnes expressed his disappointment after Liam Donnelly received Killy's 6th red card of the season. He picked up his 2nd booking at McDermott Park. To rugby, and Gregor Townsend says Scotland have grown as a group during the Autumn Nations series and head into next year's Six Nations on a high after defeating Australia. Townsend's side scored 4 tries in the 27-13 win, and Sione Tuipulotu says it's scary how much the team can improve. Here's Ronnie Charters.
The ball out, Jones, Graham, it went the other way to Kinghorn, Russell, all over now. Turn up the volume at Murrayfield.
The perfect end to the autumn series. Scintillating Scotland putting Australia to the sword as Gregor Townsend's men rounded off 2024 in style.
We're really happy with that win, but I think the scary thing for this group is that that's probably just a 6 or 7 out of 10 performance against a pretty good team, and we know we're the only ones on the training ground. We're the only ones that, you know, see what we can pull off for training. It's just about cleaning up the few errors that we had in that game, and I actually think that scoreline can be a lot bigger.
An even first half saw Scotland lead thanks to a fairy tale try by the captain in front of his grandmother, who flew from Australia for the match. But after the break, Townsend's men showed their quality. 3 second-half tries had the Murrayfield crowd on their feet as Duhan van der Merwe, Josh Bayliss and Finn Russell all crossed the line.
It's a great way to sort of round off our autumn. I think there was a lot riding on this game in terms of what the potential of the group, what we thought intrinsically, and also obviously wanted to give the fans a good end to these last 4 weeks. So yeah, really happy.
It's always great to come into this environment, and I've had a great last 4 weeks. Absolutely loved it. The boys are brilliant. I think we're really building towards something, and that's exactly how we wanted to finish it off out there with a win against Australia, and I thought we really built that win.
The result means the Scots end the autumn series with 3 wins out of 4. The only defeat coming at the hands of world champion South Africa. Now with 2025 on the horizon, attention turns to the upcoming Six Nations.
The frustrations of the Six Nations to be in every game and potentially win every game and not come through with more than 2 wins, right? That shows that they were ready back then. And I believe that experience has made us better too. Certainly a few things that we learned from that campaign, off-field, on-field. It might be something tactically, technically, but also how we have to grow as a group mentally. I think we've seen that in this campaign. And we've got to grow again next campaign, which is obviously Six Nations.
Ronnie Charters, STV Sport.
Yes, what a very good win that was. Finally, snooker news, and Steve McGuire has crashed out of the UK Championship after failing to win a single frame in his first round match. The 2004 champion was thrashed 6 frames to 0 by Kyron Wilson. John Higgins plays his first round match tomorrow.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Black Friday event.
That, folks, that's just about all of your sport tonight. It's going to be a busy one tomorrow, Kellyanne. Celtic are back in Champions League action on Wednesday against Club Brugge. We'll be speaking to manager Brendan Rodgers tomorrow.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow, Raman. Meantime, you better hide from John. Well, the weather over the weekend, it really was something else, wasn't it? But it's got our Laura Boyd in the mood for some freezing temperatures. In fact, she's in Edinburgh's newest icy Christmas attraction. Laura, tell us more.
Kellyanne, it's -8 degrees here at the Polar Ice Bar. We're getting a sneak preview of Edinburgh's latest attraction. It's set to open tomorrow. It's the latest offering in their Christmas attractions which have attracted hundreds of thousands of people in the past 10 days. And Al, tell me a little bit about what people are going to see here.
Well, as you can see, we have a beautiful new ice bar attraction that opens here tomorrow. It's a new feature for Edinburgh's Christmas, and again, it's going to keep people coming from all across the UK, all across Europe to come and spend Christmas here in the capital.
And the sculptures are just stunning. Why has Edinburgh become such a destination at this time of year?
It's a magical city anyway, but again, us providing these experiences, new attractions, it's what we've been providing, and it welcomed already 500,000 people since we opened this year. We're expecting people to come and enjoy these attractions along with the traditional Christmas markets, ice skating, and Santa has now arrived in St Andrew's Square as well. So we're giving people magical experiences from all over the country.
Well, it's very cool, literally, and someone who is chilling out here, rightfully so, after the busiest weekend for you. I shall bow before the king, rightfully in your throne. Sean, what a weekend for you.
It was absolutely crazy, wasn't it? I mean, your little one's 5th birthday, the bouncy castle couldn't get there. What carnage at the weekend. We had all that heavy snow, especially parts of central Scotland between here and Glasgow. And during the night, what was so bonkers about the whole thing was I was woken up by the snow melting off the roof of the house. It's 15 degrees at Glasgow Airport. Crazy weather.
But it's not going to be like that for the next few days, is it?
Well, no, it's going to be a lot quieter for the next couple of days. It's going to be turning a bit colder as well. Probably about as cold as this in here.
And it's the 25th of November. Can we expect a white Christmas? Is it too early to tell?
There's no way I'm telling you and everybody out there. We'll be off down the bookies. No, we'll keep that quiet. No, it's far too early to say anything about Christmas. But over the next couple of days, turning colder, but at least a little bit quieter. Let's have a look.
A breezy morning will be followed up
with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, the first skaters of the season are rinked. There's been a few falls so far, but I'm just glad it's not Laura and I on the rink this time. Now, the weather, thank goodness, after Bert is going to be a lot quieter in the next couple of days. We've got high pressure on the way, and we're going back to the same weather we had last week. Settled, quieter, colder, but a return to some mist and fog patches. But thankfully, yes, a lot quieter. Now, today we've had lots of showers around, some pretty hefty ones, especially in the west of the country. But as we go through the night, those showers ease back towards the west coast, the Hebrides, and for most of us it becomes dry, clear and chilly, and I expect those temperatures 1 or 2 degrees, parts of Stirlingshire, the Highlands, inland Argyll and Bute, low enough just to give us some icy patches maybe on some of the higher roads. Now tomorrow, thank goodness, look at the wind flapping the roof just now, that blustery wind, thank goodness will be easing down. It's going to be much quieter tomorrow, a lot of dry, bright weather around, but we still hang on to a few scattered showers across the inner Hebrides, but for most of us it is a dry day and it is a wee bit chillier. Temperatures about 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. Now talking of chilly, it's going to be a cold one to come tomorrow night, and we'll get some mist and fog patches developing in some areas, and on Wednesday it looks as if through the lights of the Clyde Valley around Glasgow that could linger throughout the day, and where it does so, those temperatures are probably going to stay around freezing. But for most of us it is a bright day, and on the chilly side we'd see more changeable weather coming back in on Thursday, but thankfully not quite as changeable as it's been in the last couple of days.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, every year, hundreds of children are forced to spend Christmas in hospital. But the staff and volunteers at Edinburgh Children's Hospital Charity are determined to make the festive time memorable. One baby boy who'll be spending his second Christmas in hospital this year was given the special job of switching on the Sick Kids light display. Amy Flett has the story.
17-month-old Gabriel has spent his whole life in the Edinburgh Children's Hospital. He has a 1 in a million genetic condition so rare that doctors cannot predict how it might shape his life. Despite knowing there may be some complications around his birth, parents Tina and Sebastian weren't expecting a long stay in the hospital. But immediately after he was born, he was rushed into intensive care.
He was intubated, so we couldn't touch him. I didn't see him properly. I didn't even see his hair because he was born with lots of hair, and we only seen that. I only seen after a few days. I got a first cuddle with him on June 5th. I threw up at those dates, so it was hard.
Yeah, those days in the past were really hard for us. Even him, the scary episodes.
It was thought that Gabriel may only live to around 3 months old, but eventually he was strong enough to have major surgery to allow him an alternative way of breathing called a tracheostomy, but it meant he would need around-the-clock care. This Christmas will be Gabriel's second spent in hospital, but this year he's played a special part in kicking off the festivities by switching on the Christmas lights.
3, 2, 1. We have to enjoy each moment, and for us each moment is so precious because we don't know what's going to happen. Like us, all parents here, whoever stuck in the hospital are trying their best for their kids. So I think these the charity or the supports here, they are giving the extra strength for us. When we are trying our best, we are getting extra hand. I feel like they're doing amazing because I believe each kid, each child in this hospital deserves more than this.
We try to make it as special as we possibly can for the children, young people in the hospital, because we know that they're going to be missing out. So we just really want to make sure that they have a magical Christmas or, festive period.
Tina and Sebastian are looking forward to the day they can finally take Gabriel home. But they know that for now, the memories they're making together as a family at the hospital are ones that they'll always treasure. Amy Flett, STV News, Edinburgh.
Oh, wonderful moment for Gabriel there. Well, that's all from us for the moment. We're back again tomorrow at 6. From all of us here in the team, good night.